So far, it's May 21st. We're getting plenty of rain. These two horses love each other. They've been around other horses in a herd, and they just teamed off together. They only want to be with each other. And when we ride with others, they don't like the other horses. And they just really are best friends. They really love each other. You see right now, they're eating their grain. The fescue and other grasses, I haven't mowed it down, and they're getting the seed tops. So certain times of the year, animals are supposed to eat grain. Cows too. These are both Warren pears. They're loaded with fruit. Now this Warren pear right here got too fertilized, and it had fire blight last year, so I had to cut some dead branches off. This Warren pear did not get fire blight because I didn't put fertilizer on it. This is a Carpathian walnut. It's supposed to be a more winter hardy English walnut. Well, it's winter hardy, but it doesn't ever bear any nuts. It's about 23 years old, and I started out with about 8 of them, and slowly but surely they've died off, and now I have 2. I don't recommend Carpathian walnut for zone 7 at all in the central United States. It just doesn't do anything. It seems that when it does put out its little flower pods, they sort of just wither away and mold from the humidity. This pear tree, and this pear tree, and this pear tree, and this pear tree, all are prone to fire blight. You got to watch what variety that you buy or plant or graft onto your trees, and make sure they don't have fire blight prone genetics. Now, there's no way to stop fire blight. They'll lie and try to sell you chemicals. You can prevent it by not fertilizing. It helps a whole lot because it favors lush growth, and you'll usually see it when the plants are growing fast in the rainy season. But you don't want plants that are prone to fire blight if you live in a wet region or a region that has that in the humidity. Like Bartlett pears, they're a no-no where it's humid. You stick with pears like Orient or Kiefer or some others that are fire blight resistant. It's very important with pear trees. Those trees in front of you with all those blooms on them, the bees don't really want to get on them at all. There are, the honeybees, but other kinds of bees, they love the chestnut trees. They fill the air with the smell of fresh bread. And they are loaded with these little white tassels. They make chestnuts, and the chestnuts have spines on them. And you do not want to step on one of those chestnut husks barefoot. I just love watching my horses grazing. We've had so much rain that my river is up and muddy. Sometimes this time of year, it's dried up. We got lucky. It's going to be a good year for rain so far. Of course, last year, the rain stopped in May and never came back until 2 days before the freeze in September. This is kudzu mixed with some more vines, wild rose and wild grape and honeysuckle. Everything you heard about kudzu is a lie, is an exaggerated lie. It's a miracle vine. It's been here 150 years. And you'll see something on the internet by one of these professors who has a nice little documentary on how good it really is and how it's not the aggressive thing you've heard about. And I got to keep it barbed wired off because if I don't, all the livestock will eat it. They love it. It's very nutritious. Makes real good honey too. This is Echinacea purpurea. And that's a butterfly on it. I don't know what kind of butterfly that is. Here's a pear tree that doesn't really get fire blight. It's called the Orient pear. It has gigantic pears, but they kind of have a russet potato skin on them, and they just don't have the flavor, in my opinion, of some of the other pears. But they're still good, and it's quite fire blight resistant. This is a 25-year-old peach tree. Never had a good peach from it. Where I live, you can't grow peaches. The trees grow fine, but the fruit rots. Well, we had people around here that used to sell peaches and pretend like they grew them, but they had truckers bringing them in from other states because people will pay more for locally grown honey and locally grown fruit. So that's a common practice, to sell produce from other places and pretend like it's your own. Pretty neat. This is a basswood. They're native or indigenous to Europe and the United States or North America. They're also known as linden tree. There's a little leaf linden and there's this bigger leaf linden. They both grow in both continents, Eurasia and North America. This one's not in bloom yet, but you can see it's getting ready to be. These little hanging things here, they're going to be flowers pretty soon, and oh, are the bees going to be loving that. Right now my bees are building up. I'm glad it's not blooming yet because it's a little bit too early for my bees to take advantage of it. And with all the moisture we've had and the good rain, hopefully this will load them up enough to survive until fall when the goldenrods come, because we may not get any rain after all this. Then we might. We never know. Well, the chemical companies, petroleum chemical companies that make herbicides and all that, they run the USDA. They control it. They're in the top seats. They say this plant's really invasive. Now this is autumn olive, and it bears a whole lot of fruit, and all the animals love it. They love the fruit. And I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 shrubs. And these little things have been here for about 25 years, and I've never had one spread yet. There's no seedlings on the ground around them. And no, it doesn't smother out everything. As you can see, even under its shade, there's meadow rue right there. And there's verbena, frostweed growing all in through here. There's Chinese yam, Diosera chinensis, very good to eat. And all this river cane, natural stuff right under there. And you see, it's loaded with fruit. But they say, oh, what's bad about it is it makes poor soil rich because it's a nitrogen fixer, and the native plants like poor soil. So, hey, makes the soil rich. Whoa. Anyway, it hasn't done anything different to my soil. I still have the same old grasses that I've had 25 years ago. The buckeyes are still trying to grow under there. All it's done is feed animals. Been pretty good. And this little vine growing up on the autumn olive is Canada moon seed. It's a little annual vine growing way up there. Pretty neat. It has these big grape-like clusters that look like grapes but certainly don't taste like them. This is another pear tree succumbing to fire blight. And what happens when they succumb to fire blight is, you see, it looks like somebody took a flame torch and just sort of burnt some of the leaves, and the twigs will kind of be dead, and you got to kind of break them off and look. See, they look dead. But the tree always recovers once the fast-flowing growth slows down in the summer and it dries up a little bit. The pear recovers perfectly and still has fruit. Kind of self-prunes it. And like I said, most of my pear trees that I've chosen don't get fire blight, but some do. Seems like the ones that do are the tastiest, usually. And this is a big, tall basswood. Look at how big it is. Probably 170 feet tall. It's pretty good. And once again, the little flower tassels start out like that, Then they open up, make beautiful flowers, and they turn out to look just like that when they're done blooming. They leave these little, tiny little pellets that look just like that are seeds. We had a big storm, and it knocked this tree right over. I take advantage of stuff like this. Where the tree knocked over, that's going to be good firewood for me. And I planted a fig tree there. I've got many varieties of figs. And I've got an animal living underneath there. Not sure what it is. Probably an armadillo. America's only anteater. North America's only anteater. They love fire ants. You can see it's been digging in the logs, hoping to get some insect grubs, beetle larvae, stuff like that. This is my Bassetti bamboo. This is my yellow groove bamboo. And oh, is it a beautiful barn for the horses. They love it. Very cool and comfortable in there in the summertime. The horses are drinking salt. I put the salt in that iron ring there so they can't tip it over. But it rains so much that the salt mixed with water and went in that puddle, and they really like that. And bees like it too. Even though it's getting ready to rain, there are some bees in there drinking the salt. Can't really see them. Oh my God, face flies. I got to do something about those face flies. I have face nets for the horses. Anyway, so there is a chestnut. Again, they're really pretty trees. Just beautiful. When they're in bloom especially. There's another chestnut. Look at the bloom. Now that's Chinese chestnut. The American chestnut, it can't tolerate the way the weather's changed and everything. And apparently it's not growing so well anymore. So the Chinese chestnut doesn't seem to mind, and it's growing great. And the American chestnut is much taller and I think a smaller nut, but I don't know. That's all I know about that. This is a little Callaway crabapple. And when I planted it 4 years ago, I thought it was going to be the most vigorous thing, but have small little apples that aren't too worthwhile, but it would feed the wildlife. Well, the thing is, the other apple trees that I planted a couple years after that, which are regular apples, Gala and stuff, they outgrew it. And there's one behind it. And that's a Gala over there. And it's only 3 or 4 years old, younger than that Callaway. And it's already got apples on it. See that? It's much more vigorous. Now, see, I wrap foil around the trunk loosely, just enough. Or I can wrap a little twist of wire around it, and that keeps the deer antlers in the fall from scraping their velvet off on the trunks. They don't like to touch metal, just like you don't like to chew on metal with your teeth. There's nerves in the antlers while they're attached to the deer, and they don't like touching metal with them. Just really don't like it. So if you want to stop them from rutting on your trees, just put some metal around them.